Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Centric. This being a show we're talking about TV shows that are crime dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the series premiere of Tracker. Great series premiere. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So obviously we get our introduction to Coulter. He's in the middle of a case. He's basically picking up this woman, Jessie, who was out, I guess, like just hiking and ended up having an accident, and now she can't move. So he's doing everything he can to calm her down, and it's just like, right, the longer we wait here, the closer your chances of not only getting out of here, but also getting out of here with both of your legs intact. Because like one of her legs is messed up, and it's just like you might end up losing one of your legs if we stay here. But if you let me carry you out of here, 95% chance. He uses that statistic later on, so I don't know if those are real statistics. The fact is he uses that same percentage amount near the end of the episode makes me almost feel like he says that kind of as a routine just to calm people down, make them see like, oh, things could be bad, but like with me, you're going, it's the psychological placebo effect type of thing. I'm wondering, is that what it is, or is it legitimately like, no? I'm sure he can't really statistically put it in the value of like, oh, like with me, your chances increase, yada yada yada. I'm sure it is a placebo effect thing, but so. It's so interesting because I think the opening to this episode kind of showcases like how good he is with people, but also like kind of paints him in a narrative of like, oh, he's also not that great with people sometimes, because it's like, okay, here I am, like, okay, I saved her, she's in with the ambulance, yeah, so where's my money? It's like, well, you're gonna have to talk to her parents about that, so on and so forth, right? So it kind of showcases like, oh, he can be caring, but he's also about the money, which I think is this theme that kind of gets played throughout the episode, especially when he runs into that officer later in the episode, and she kind of thinks like, oh, you're just about the money, that's all you care about. But then like when he shows compassion for the family, it's like, yo, like, shouldn't there be some officers at their house? They have another kid, making sure they're okay, making sure they're calm under these circumstances, because he hasn't been able to talk to the family because he was locked up at the time. I'm jumping around, but it's to play into the point of what I talked about, where it's like, yeah, you'd assume because he's a rewardist, his own coined term. I don't know, maybe that is a real term and he isn't the one that coined it. It sounds like a coined term, like he made that shit up, but it's so interesting because I just feel like it's meant to show this narrative of like, he can seem like all he cares about the reward, but he does care about people too. But I think it's only like, okay, once the job's done, I'm like, okay, I can go back to, yeah, this is my job and I need to get paid. But first and foremost, because that's why he's like, I'm not going to charge you for expenses. I actually do not get paid until the job is actually done. That's kind of what some lawyers take jobs like that, where it's like, no, you won't have to actually pay us until after the fact. And, I mean, maybe that's my ignorance speaking. Until you get paid, we don't get paid type of situation. I mean, once again, I'm sure it depends on the lawyer, it depends on the actual case. And once again, maybe I'm making that bullshit up. Maybe that's some TV lawyer bullshit that I'm just spewing as facts when it's not. But either way, the next case he ends up getting is finding a kid who was taken by what it seems to be his biological dad. What I think is kind of interesting, this is me, doing my funny connections and stuff like that. Obviously, Justin Hartley is best known for... my introduction to Justin Hartley was him as Oliver Queen, a.k.a. Green Arrow on Smallville. Well, there's another person in the cast who has a DC connection, or at least off the top of my head, and that's the actress who plays Sarah, the mom of the missing kid in this episode. She was in Peacemaker. She's only in like 2 or 3 episodes, but she's the wife and the arguing couple that pops up throughout the show. Like I said, like 3 times. Like she was the wife, the one that wanted to bang Peacemaker, ended up banging him and had that threesome with him and Vigilante. I'm fairly sure that's the same actress, so I was like, oh, that's funny. Once again, I make those connections, drawing so many parallels. But either way, it was interesting because the kid wanted to have a relationship with his father, and stepfather's not too okay with that, neither is the mom, but secretly the mom is, because she's slowly been introducing the father and the son kind of getting them to know each other, because it complicates things, because even I was scared when she was like, oh, I don't want to end up telling my current husband. He was like, why? Because he get physical or lose his temper? I was like, no, it'd break his heart. It's like, yeah, because he's not a stepfather, he's a father who stepped up type of thing. But it's like, yeah, he genuinely wants to have a relationship with his stepson, but it's the complicated thing. That must mean that their other son must be their biological, their son. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, so it's a situation of he probably, a kid that's always curious about his biological father, never really get to know him. So, and you're trying to be there, but you kind of feel like you're not good enough, or like you're failing in some capacity as a stepfather, that he doesn't even view it as a father's thing, that he wants to go so out of his way to know. I mean, it's understandable wanting to know where you came from. But yeah, like, so though Sarah had kept that from her husband about, like she had put her son in contact with his father just little by little, and never thought it kind of come down to this whole thing of him getting kidnapped. So luckily, we get introduced to a little bit more of Coulter's team. Like, obviously we got introduced to Vilma and Teddy, who are a couple who seem to be, they're the ones who give these jobs to Coulter. I don't know how they come across the guy. I mean, it seems like they're like, Coulter seems like he has connections, but it seems like Teddy and Vilma are the ones with the real connection. So I guess maybe around the U.S. they have these different, like, they have a network that contacts them about, like, oh, you were looking for a job, like, here's a job to give to your boy Coulter. Or like maybe they have fillers out there, doing some of that for them. I have no idea, like, I mean, first and foremost, how Coulter knows him. Like, we didn't get into any of that this episode. I'm sure we'll probably explore more of that as the season progresses. But, how they got into this line of work themselves. Obviously, Coulter, we got a little bit more. We'll talk about his past later on when we get through the episode. But we kind of got an idea of how he, like, from a personal level, how he got to this job. But, like, really how he really, really got into it, we don't know. But either way, we also get introduced to Bobby, who, that actor, I'm blanking on his character's name because he was a recurring character in Lock and Key. And I'm blanking on his character. Was it Logan? I want to say that was, it's been a hot minute, so I want to say that was his character's name, Logan. But he kind of seems like he's kind of the tech support for man in chair type of situation for Coulter. So it's like, right, I'm gonna skirt some gray line laws to, like, skirt the law, do some gray area stuff for you for the purpose of giving you the information you need. So ended up tracking down the text messages, then followed it to, like, a burger place. He broke in. Break in is, in his mind, is kind of like, that's kind of aggressive terminology to use, where I just like, hey, I went into the back and I snuck in there. It's like, is that really breaking in? And it's like, did I really resist arrest? It's like, I just told you, like, hold up a minute. I wasn't confrontational. I just didn't open the door when you told me to. So he ends up getting locked up. Vilma and Teddy have to, like, wake up in the middle of the night. All right, let's call him a lawyer. Can we find anyone that's going to be there in that region that could take care of him? And lo and behold, they call in Renee, which I immediately was like, oh, is this an ex-girlfriend? It's like, no, it's an ex-situationship fling at best. But it seems like there were kind of sparks there. But it's like, yo, I woke up and, like, he kind of hit it and quit it. He's like, yeah, but I had a job. It was time to, But it's like, feels like there's still some sparks there. I even love, she's like, oh, I'm going to be in town. He's like, oh, so you want me to swing by? She's like, God, no. Like, there's, like, a museum here. It was like some kind of, like, military museum or something. She's going to pick up something for her dad because she's a military brat. And she's like, my dad would really appreciate it. So I'm doing this for him. Like, this wasn't no, like sly attempt at a booty call. She's like, don't get it twisted, homie. So I even love she tries to warn the cop, who kind of becomes a little enamored by Coulter. She's like, I know everything you're thinking. All I'm telling you is, be careful. Because it's like, oh, you pictured him one way and he's kind of smooth and charming, and you're just like, oh, maybe there's more to you. And it's like, all right. She's like, I've been down that road before, but, be careful. But obviously she didn't heed her warning because they end up sleeping together later on. But I think it's more of a thing of, well, he didn't wake up and bail like he did with Renee because he wasn't in the middle of a job. Doesn't make it better even if he was in the middle of a job. Like, you don't... That's a whole conversation. I don't know why people were thinking ghosting someone is fine. I mean, it depends. Like, if the person's a shitty human being or terrible, like, sure. But it's like, yo, you hit it and then you just, once again, hitting and quitting, it just seems kind of messed up. At least be like, hey, you had a great time. I don't know if you're going to necessarily stay over for breakfast. And it's just not, there's levels to that. Like, there's a nuance to that where it's just not so black and white. But I'm just like, I don't know. Because he didn't do it with her, but like I said, he was, when it came to the officer, he wasn't in the middle of a job. Not like being in the middle of a job makes it better, not like it makes it 100% excusable, but still. either way, I thought it was an interesting development where we find out. I'm jumping all around. I do apologize. I thought it was an interesting development to find out the biological father actually died like 6 months ago, and the person that came to pick up the kid wasn't his father. It was a guy. Like, they use a different terminology for it. The old terminology for it would be a halfway home, because they were like, it sounds a little outdated, and I guess like they don't want to use that terminology because it makes people think one thing, and that's not what we want this place to be viewed as. But it turns out this is where the biological dad and the guy behind all of this, I should be saying names, I do apologize, but yeah, it turns out the biological dad, when he was there, he was always telling these stories about this money he had hidden away. He knew exactly where to go. And this guy latched onto the story, so now he ends up kidnapping the guy's son and pretending to be his father just so that he could get the money, because it sadly turns out, like I said, the guy... Because that means, like, the mom wasn't even in contact with him these past few... Because didn't she say, like, she was talking to him for the past few weeks? So it wasn't even the husband she was talking to, but like he probably... Everyone in the place knew him, so they probably knew enough about him to fill in some gaps, because he probably talked a lot about stuff, so was able to probably keep things simple enough, but also answer some, like, she probably wouldn't think much of it of like, oh, this, you know, like, who would think, like, oh, this guy's pretending to be my ex to get close to my son so that they can find some buried cash that my ex got from a drug deal a long time ago. So, you know, I wasn't expecting that to be the twist to this episode. I thought it would just be like a father who did the wrong thing, trying to be close to his son and kidnapped him for whatever reason. But no, that was kind of an interesting twist to it. And ultimately, they end up finding out where he is, because they know the area in which the cash was buried, but also it's based on the photo of the son and his biological dad, like on like a camping trip and stuff like that. So, but the police are involved. They want to go in guns ready, but Coulter is like, let me handle this, give me time. And he almost effortlessly diffused that situation given the time. He snuck up there, he calmed the dude down. It's like, hey, you hurt. No. You don't want to keep the kid as a hostage. If anything happens to him, it's going to like mess up your plan. He gets hurt, or worse, he gets killed. There's a good chance you not only will you get locked up, you won't make it out of this alive. So let me just take the kid. I go. They gave me 2 hours. You got 30-minute head start. Your chances 5 to 10% better if you go now. The guy was willing to. He was about to let go, but until like a helicopter rode up, because the cops got antsy. He had 30 minutes and they rode up too early. It's like, you promised to give him 2 hours, and you didn't give him. Even a cop later on, it's like, oh yeah, sorry about that. You got winged. He was acting like it was no big deal, because it's like, it all worked out in the end, but because of you, like, it turned into a whole shitstorm situation. The guy shot Coulter, took off in the truck with the kid in the back, speeding down the roads. The fact of the matter is, because also the guy's armed too, so that was a whole thing. Luckily, Coulter got in the back of the truck. All the while, you know, can't really use his left arm because he got shot. But the fact is that the guy feeling cornered decides to kill himself, and in the process, his foot ends up on he takes his foot off the brake, and the car goes backwards and is over like some water. So it's like, cool, we have to let go and I can help you swim, or the longer we let this go drag on and we stay hanging, the more I'm bleeding, the more I'm losing my strength. So luckily they let go and you're able to swim. But it's like, yeah, that was a shit-torn situation, because that kid's life was in danger because you were reckless. You gave me the 2 hours, so give me the 2 hours. Like, once again, you made the point of 2 hours and no more. If you got past the 2 hour point and he had messed, he'd at least admit, hey, that was on me. You gave him an hour and a half. It's like, that was super messed up. And it's like, even a cop recognized, like, yeah, I kind of screwed the pooch on that. And it's like, yeah, you did, homie. So, but once again, he's only kind of like so nonchalant about, yeah, you got clipped, you know, it's kind of acting like it was no big deal because it all worked out in the end, but so many ways it couldn't have because of your actions. So I did love that the message at the end of it all was, you know, Coulter telling the guy, like, hey, you have a support system. Yeah, your dad's going. He's like, mine is too. But at the end of the day, you still have people in your corner. Like, your stepdad's pretty all right. So it's like kind of helping bridge the gap in that relationship. Like, you have people in your corner, kind of don't take them for granted. Like, not everyone has that situation, so it all works out wonderfully, and like, you kind of end up bridging the gap in that relationship. So I thought that was beautiful. But kind of tying, using that opportunity to kind of jump off more, we found out all that Coulter's backstory revolves around his dad, which that actor, I think his name is Lee. It's like, I always feel bad because I feel like a lot of times I see that actor play like, I feel like maybe it's just me, just the stuff I've seen him in sometimes, he gets typecast as like some off the wall bananas type of dude, and it seems like Coulter's dad was kind of like that too, because at first you're almost like, he's not some weirdo, because it's like he like took his, like he said, some people are after us, so it's like, is he paranoid? But once again, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not really after you. So we haven't dived enough into that, but I get the feeling like everyone in the family is going to think he's crazy and yada yada yada, but I think there's going to be truth to, like, there were people after him for whatever reason. I don't think Coulter ever really got into why people are after his dad, so I thought that was interesting. But everything Coulter knows about tracking and stuff like that, it's not just something that was taught to him, it was taught to all his siblings, his older brother and his little sister. Who knows if any of them have maintained or retained any of that? Maybe only Coulter has, it's unclear. But yeah, I thought it was interesting, and I like how they set it up. They kind of, because even the cop is hearing his story, and it's like, okay, your dad went out in a storm. He's like, because he was trying to drag the entire family. It's like, well, what about mom? It's like, your mom will find us. But, he was unhinged because he was about to snap at the daughter, but then, like, the oldest had to get in the way, and he pulled a knife on the oldest, and Coulter had to be like, yo, dad, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm sorry, they're after me, and he started to leave, and the oldest sibling is like, yo, we'd be better off if dad was dead, but Coulter's like, that's our dad, like, what the hell are you saying? So he's like, fine, I'll follow him and look for him, and Coulter went after both of them, and couldn't find it because it was like an hour later when his mom got home, but neither one of them had come back. And by the time Coulter went out to find him, and the police officer was like, you couldn't find him, and that's your motivation for why you help people who can't find stuff. He's like, no, I found my dad. I was like, the way that was being set up, I was like, nah, it's not going to be that. It's going to be tragic. Like, yeah, his dad's dead. But it seems, and it's like I said, I don't think, but it seems like the older sibling did it, but I highly doubt it. Maybe he did do it and he had his reasons, or we don't know. Because, like, what we see is he just walks away. So I don't know if he gets arrested and sent to jail for it. Because at the end of the episode, Coulter goes to visit his mom, and his mom is telling him to bury all this. Even saying, like, yo, don't talk to your brother, block his number. Like, so I'm like, there's more here. Because you could tell Coulter knows there's more going on. Because, he called out Sarah for lying, saying, like, oh, yeah, I had no contact with my ex. He's like, I'm very good at reading people. And the moment his mom said it, you could tell by her behavior that she was, just her demeanor and how she said it and her body language kind of implied that she was lying. And you can tell by Coulter looking at her, you're like, oh yeah, he can tell that she's lying too, but he doesn't want to push her on it. But he's just like, whatever this is, whatever you know about my brother and what you know about dad, I need to know. But she's like, let this go for everyone's sake. And I'm like, I guess once again, this has something to do with, just because you're seen paranoid and off your rocker doesn't mean there isn't truth to, yeah, like his dad probably was legitimately running from somebody, and even though it's been like, 20 years since his dad died, that there might still be some danger. And that's also why his mom, who probably knows a lot more, is like, don't, like, steer the hornet's nest. Ignore your brother, because maybe he's trying to clear his own name about everything, or maybe because he himself was so against their father, he ended up kind of, maybe it's just a life of trouble followed him afterwards. Like, maybe he went to jail or juvie, well, because he was 18, so there's a good chance he didn't go to juvie, because juvie is like under 18, and obviously as an 18-year-old, also it depends on the state and the circumstances, but typically 18 is when you start getting tried as an adult. So he could have done some pretty serious jail time. It depends on what they charged him with. Did they, murder? Like, it could have been like, was it intentional? Was it accidental? Like, all that, will change the degrees that of what he gets charged with and how long he gets in jail, good behavior and stuff like that. So has he been out for a while? Because Coulter recognized, like, the number's been blowing up his phone. But who knows how long he's been trying to call. But the moment, like, because apparently they got to him through Teddy and Vilma. So it's like, how did he get to them? Like, how did he find out about them to be able to get to Coulter? Has he been talking to their sister? Definitely seems like he's been talking to their mom, but I don't know what that is. Why are you so adamant about him, like, not talking to his brother, but you have potentially talked to him, and like, what is it that she's hiding? Cause where was she during that situation? Like, I'm wondering, is it gonna be a sad situation? She didn't know for sure she was coming back or not, type of thing, or what? But like, why was she going in the first place? Maybe she was actually going to get some help because she knew her husband was unstable, and she tried to like use this as an excuse to go away for a little bit to bring cops or whatever to kind of resolve this situation without it getting ugly, and it got ugly regardless without intervention. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see where that storyline goes, but that seems to be one of our overarching episode and theme and element. But yeah, like, I could definitely, I doubt Coulter is going to heed what his mom said, even though she tries to guilt him into it. It's like, I've asked you for very few things in life. I'm asking you to do this. But for Coulter, it's like, it's the biggest mystery in his life, and it's connected to why he does what he does. It's a fundamental part of himself. So it's like, I need to find out what happened, what this was all about. Like, he's been, once again, all these people are trying to find something. He's trying to find something too. Closure, the truth, So it's definitely going to be interesting to see where all that ends up taking us. Obviously, we haven't seen the last Sereni. It's probably just going to be, Coulter's probably going to be in a situation where, because the reason why they met in the first place was because he got into trouble and she bailed him out. So she did it again this episode. But she's also like, right, tell Teddy and Vilma that let me be the first call when they need something handled like this. So I don't know if that's going to be a rekindling of flames. Is he going to kind of have a one night stand type of situation like he did with the cop lady this episode, or what? Seems like him and Renee, that seems like that's going to be like the love interest, and it's like, will they, won't they, make a mistake and go down that lane again, and how that all turns out. I think Renee's just kind of like, no, I'm a woman scorned, and like, I'm not going down that road again. You can be charming, you can handsome, you can like weave up your like BS, but I'm not going to get caught up in your like swab bullshit anymore. So we'll see, but it's probably going to be like this interesting like dynamic of her just constantly calling him out for his bullshit, because it seems like that's going to be kind of her role. We'll see. It's going to be interesting because she might not be in every episode. She might be in like every other episode, or just like have a guest starring appearance, or maybe she'll be massively reoccurring, or maybe she will be like one of the main characters of the show. We'll see how it all plays out, which is only the first episode. Obviously, I'm getting to this almost like a week late. The next episode is going to be airing. It's still Friday at the time we recording. It's Friday night, so obviously the next episode's Sunday. So, but I'm excited. I think everything I saw from the trailer was mainly from the first episode. It's been a while since I saw the trailer, so I might not be remembering everything. So I'm excited to see how the season plays out and where everything ends up taking us. From what I saw on IMDb, it is a 13-episode season. We'll see whether that ends up changing, because sometimes IMDb's wrong about the episode numbers, but it seemed like it might be right in this case. We'll see. But yeah, I'm excited to see where the show takes us, and especially unraveling this mystery of Coulter's past, stuff with his dad, his brother, what his mom's keeping from him, what's his sister up to. Maybe we'll get introduced to her next episode, or maybe a little later in the season. Also, kind of ending on a kind of like a sweet, happy note. I do love the whole Vilma and Teddy storyline of like, she wants to adopt the dog Paula. Once again, I know people hate puns. I love puns. I really appreciate puns. And so she was kind of hurt, but I was like, Teddy adopted the dog, and she did. I was like, that's super cute. She's like, yeah, it's too many dogs, because they already have one other one, but it's still kind of like, yeah, it's still too many, but I'm enjoying it. So, it's also like your partner's happy, and you want to make sure your partner's happy. So that was like really sweet. Just kind of wanted to kind of tack that on at the end there. So, oh, and before I also finish too, this is based on the book. Apparently, a book series. This is based on the book The Never Game. I've never read it, but I see that it seems like this is from a series of books. I don't know if these are like the Coulter Shaw books type of situations, but like since they said specifically The Never Game. Like, not less the other books follow different people. Like, it just seemed like they were saying, like, a series. So, I didn't see anything saying like the Coulter Shaw book, so maybe it's just like this specific season is based on this very specific book. Maybe what I was reading was misleading and it's not necessarily a series. Maybe it is just one book. I'm assuming it's multiple books and it's just this one's based off the first one in the series. So that's an interesting title too, like The Never Game. So I don't know if that's something that's going to be like lost in translation from like being adapted from the book. Like how faithful to the book are they being? Are they changing a lot? They're keeping a lot the same. So always questions like that with an adaptation and going from like a title like The Never Game to Tracker. I mean, it makes sense why you call the show Tracker considering like the theme of the show, but I don't know if like that theme isn't really there. Maybe they kept that theme because it fits more so the procedural element of this show in some capacities, or just maybe like once again maybe in the context of the book and in the grand scheme of things, The Never Game makes a lot of sense. I mean, it still could translate. Once again, we're only one episode in, so maybe even in the confines of the show, The Never Game would make a lot of sense. Like, oh, how he never gives up on people. He's always there for people. So there could be a little bit to that, and maybe it translates and connects to his past, his father's family circumstances, stuff like that. Either way, I've run my mouth off enough. We'll have to wait and see where everything takes us. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.